Have you ever been lost? Yeah, I have. Here's a couple of different ways. Moving to a new place, out on a trail, in a foreign country. Some of those times and places, being lost can lead to a fabulous adventure. Having all day and no place to be is a different kind of lost than trying to get to someone's home and you've never been there and it's the first time and you want to make a good impression. One can be this kind of lovely thing, and the other can lead to frustration and stress and a frazzledness if and when you finally make it. And I would guess that most of us do not like the second kind of stress in our life on a regular basis. And being lost and really not knowing where you're going, as a, not just in this moment, but in a period of life. Sometimes we call that a liminal space. Some of us have been through those kinds of spaces too. And that's the kind of space and when you're in between things and you really don't know if the step that you're about to take is necessarily the quote, right one. And so it is a different kind of lost, where everything's kind of unclear. And in those moments, your pastor might tell you that that's when you really have to lean into God. You really have to trust that not only will you get to where you're going, but that God is already with you on this road and will be with you if you go left or right, front or back. And sometimes that's about all of the reassurance you have. And hopefully, that reassurance is enough. And if that can be enough, then you can have some hope. To lean in to not being alone and to lean out of the anxiety that says, "Where are you going? You don't know what you're doing." Because that voice can be really loud. And so we have this wonderful story that I hope you've heard 1,000 times at least, about striking off to follow something as undetermined as a dream or a hunch or a star. Friends, I don't think the Magi were ever lost. They might not have known what was in their future or even around the next sand dune, but that is not the same thing as lost. They were on a mission to follow the star that rose in the east. And I read this wonderful book. It gave this kind of new political, social commentary on what was happening potentially for the Magi. And the book is called The First Advent in Palestine. It's by a woman named Kelley Nikondeha. And she describes how Alexander the Great brought influence of the West into eastern regions when he defeated the Persians around 330 before the Common Era. And that meant the Magi were from Persia. And so that caused Persians to long for restoration of their indigenous practices and leadership. And so she argues that the Magi pushed against Hellenization of their culture and religion and were working for a restoration of what they knew, a restoration of what was really Persian to them. And so she wonders if these Persian kings, these Magi, followed the star into a foreign land, hoping that if a king rose up to fight off the Roman oppression in Judea, their neighbor, it would have ripple effects for the rest of the East. And so Jesus was a huge sign of hope for them. Political, religious, social, because the Magi were hoping for a similar king to come and do a new thing where they were. And so the star comes up, and the Magi set off with treasures in their bags and hope in their hearts and liberation for their people and their neighbors is at the center and core of this journey. And they start winding this new path that went well outside their normal routines. And they wind up in Bethlehem of Judea. And they went into the court of Herod, who was king of Judea and king of the Jews. And I suspect they didn't need a dream to know that Herod was a little bit off. So according to historians, and these are historians, not Christian historians, Herod had a dark and cruel streak that showed itself increasingly as he grew older. His mental instability was fed by the intrigue and deception that went on within his own family. He was prone to violent attacks of jealousy. He had 9 wives and 14 children by 6 of them. And if this historic description reminds you of any other political leaders with similar proclivities, well, the Magi did not have to be imbued with superpowers to get a bad sense about old King Herod. They took what they needed from him, and then they took their leave. The star rose again and led them through the valley and desert toward the tiny town of Bethlehem. And after all of their wandering, they were able to catch a glimpse of the Christ child, the Judean real king that had just come. And recognizing Jesus' importance, they worshiped him, offered him gifts fit for a monarch, and considered their quest fulfilled, but their journey was not complete. They went home by a new, wandering, mysterious route. The Magi, longing for political and social change, followed a star rather than a pre-plotted trade route. And this year we are heading into political and social seasons that promise to be less like well-worn and tread paths and much more like following yonder star. We would do well, I think, to heed their example. The Magi were not reactive. They were guided. They were proactive. They focused on what was life-giving and light-bearing. They took strategic risks. I would love for us to follow in their shoes and also choose strategic risks and be guided always towards God's light and towards liberation for all of God's people. And we know that God does not ask us to go this road by ourselves. And we know that together in this room and in this community, we have so many gifts. And so in an effort to unlock some of the gifts we have among us even now, I invite you this year, once again, to take up the spiritual practice of Starwords. This may be a new practice for some of us, and for others, this is a lovely reminder. The practice is very simple. It's simple, it's not easy, and it can offer some profound gifts to those who seek. So during communion, I will invite you to not only come forward, but to also to pick a star word. Here is our basket. You'll notice they're all white, because on the other side, there is color and there is a word. And you can dig around as much as you want, but I invite you to just find something that is still white to you and pick it up and then turn it over and see what the gift of that word happens to be. They're all good words, I promise. Although some might be more fun than others, I don't know. It depends on who you are. But you take this and then all you do is place that star word somewhere where you can see it on the regular. Maybe it's on the dashboard of your car or on your bathroom mirror or on the fridge or next to your desk, wherever it works for you. And your practice, should you choose to play along, is to reflect on this word in the coming year, to ponder what significance this word might have in your life, and to ask God to speak to you through this simple word. Bonus points are awarded for someone who might consider applying this and connecting this word to others or with others in the community. Prayers take many forms. You might look up its official definition or the word's etymology, or its use over time historically for inspiration. Your word might lead you to read a book or listen to a podcast on a particular theme. There is no right or wrong way to pray with this star word. It's like a little puzzle, and you just keep shaking it and playing with it until hopefully you will have an epiphany, which means at some point you'll go, oh, and it will connect in some way that you haven't thought of before. Maybe you'll have two epiphanies. I don't know. I just know that when you play, it tends to follow. Now, sometimes a message seems really clear, particularly at first, and other times, hopefully, the meaning will shift a little bit over time. And if you are certain you know what this word means for you in your life as you pick it today, congratulations, you're in for a real surprise. And if you really don't like your word, then you definitely have the right word for you this year. And I cannot wait to hear your story. And if you get stuck, that's fine. However, if you find this word to be a real stumbling block that is beyond a healthy rub or just a little poke here or there, you might consider talking about it with someone for clarity, and then you might need to choose a different word for yourself. And thus, the word that you drew will lead you to something else on this winding little journey. Do you see how that all works? Super. And if you happen to be a doer, you're in luck as well. You might consider writing down a few actions or projects that this word inspires. Then choose one, do it, and then once you've done it, look at your word again. Is it inviting you to do the same thing again? There's your marching orders. Or has it shifted into something else? Again, no right or wrong, it's just playing the game. This can be a solo journey. You do not have to tell anyone what your word is. I wish I hadn't told my wife the first year we were married what my star word was, because my word was sharing, and she took advantage of that. And we still laugh about it to this day. But you can share it, and you might want to share it in order to get some other ideas about what this word might mean to you this year. Again, no right or wrong. And if you're open, this is a way that you can open up conversations with family members or coworkers or neighbors. There's all kinds of ways to play. This practice is not just for us. Other churches are doing it, and we are happy for other people to have a star word. And so if you have someone that you want to give one to, great, draw two today. But draw them with intention. This one's for me, this one's for this other person. Don't be like, I really feel like I'm better at. Also, if you're at home and you want us to send you one, just let us know. Happy to put them in the mail. We've put them in the mail to people we've never met before who have seen this invitation on Facebook. This is a wonderful practice, and it's easy, and it's something that we can keep coming back to. So, if you're watching at home, send me a note. Sending you a star word is something happy to do. Beloved, the star is in the sky. That's what we are celebrating today. The star has risen, the Magi have come forth. Herod and people like him are in our midst and are doing some bad things. And real people need folks to see them and to follow God's light and to help where we can. So, may we, like the Magi, follow God's light, wherever the twisting road may take us, to help be part of God's goodness and God's relief and God's liberation for all of God's people. Thanks be to God.